Welcome to my scientifically informed insider look at mental health topics. Now, this is a theory that I've heard many times. There's a lot of different behaviors that people attribute to full moons. Hello, this is Dr. Grande.
And I'm Isaac Lalhikar, and this is finally an opportunity for something I've been wanting to drive through since a long time.
Today's question is, can a full moon affect human behavior? There are a lot of different areas that this belief says can be affected, increasing the number of seizures that occur.
This started from the fact that people pray expecting God to heal bad behaviors. Jesus gave instruction and he heals diseases. But people have invented an understanding of health that we need to be aware of. You never see Jesus healing mental illness. This crazy person said, yes he did, he healed an epileptic. In the Gadarenes, he calmed a storm. It was more than a storm. You don't need to get into that last one, she's a disingenuous... About the Gadarenes, that's the fullest of the problem. This went full circle, about an elaborated set of supposed symptoms, where other than the fact that we've believed in demons, none of these things, mistaken for their activities, have anything to do with each other. Then came Jean-Martin Charcot, a fraud. He brought actresses and showed the public they exhibit what was being claimed hysteria when he did things, and made himself out to be a discovery founder.
What we focus on today, though, is schizophrenia. And what you'll see is this is not just some sort of generic craziness in the way that that word means nothing whatsoever. There are typical structures to the ways in which things are not working right in the behavior.
This is something that started when someone looked at people who were demon-possessed and decided it's an illness. Do you think that someone's mindfulness can actually be impaired?
You're sitting there interviewing a schizophrenic and they suddenly say, have you heard of the Great Wall of China? My idea. My idea. Delusional thought, and related to that is the paranoia. And almost certainly it has something to do with if the world is making so little sense to you, it is a world that is very threatening. Most famously, perhaps, with schizophrenia is you get hallucinations. Those are the defining features. There's no way that schizophrenia is just one disease, because there's all sorts of subtypes. It is a bunch of heterogeneous diseases.
This logic, pun intended, came from down in Greece. In the time of King Saul and his tormenting spirits, they were believing that this was a sacred manifestation from the gods. In Epidaurus, there was Asclepius' sanctuary mentioned by Homer.
Another site central to the ancient Greeks is Delphi, best known as the place where a famous oracle resided.
People would come from all over the known world to seek the advice of this priestess for important questions and direction.
And by the way, if I proceed this into a series, you will see that the notorious practice of saying Hellenisms, or making things sound specially technical and make it look like the Greeks know of something, it's just ordinary words in people speaking, essentially hiding behind another language. Psychologists do this all the time. But the Greeks were to discover one of the things mistaken for a spirit's taking of a person was actually a bodily illness.
Αναφέρονται στη βιολογία τους, τη χημεία και το DNA.
They retained its name though and called it epileptic nausea. It's being sick. And they were right, it's different to being demonically seized. Although they retained the name of it as it was thought to be. Lepsi comes from lamvane, meaning being seized or taken.
Ένας συνθετικός μικροοργανισμός που δεν εντοπίζεται. Μόλις μπει στο σώμα, απελευθερώνει όχι μόνο ορμόνες που αυξάνουν την αποδοτικότητα, αλλά και γνώσεις επίσης.
Έτσι δεν χρειάζεται να εξασκηθεί ποτέ κανένας.
Ακριβώς.
Or attacked.
Το ήξερα ότι έκλεβα.
In the Middle Ages, people dropped this and thought they were attacked from a demonic spirit again. Then later, they took up the Greeks' work again and thought it was a bodily case.
Καλή ιδέα. Ευχαριστώ πολύ. Δουλειά μας.
Even in the United States in the late 19th century, they thought that this was caused by multiplying self-abuse. Look up what that meant at the time. It was at this time also that the psychologist had just arrived. They took this off the hook. And they didn't solve the problem so much as replace it with their own.
A whole bunch of ways that things can go wrong. We can have too much dopamine coming out for some reason or other. We can have too many dopamine receptors, enhanced sensitivity. Neuroleptics, the person has gone mad in the ER and someone yells for a syringe. They're yelling for a syringe of something that will block the dopamine receptors. And somebody's sitting there who is tremoring like this all over their body the entire time, and that's somebody who is going to have been taking these drugs for 20, 25 years or so. LSD and all of those hallucinogens fit into serotonin receptors and activate them. Immediately generated all sorts of hypotheses that there are abnormalities in serotonin. So I'm sitting there and I'm saying, well, it's kind of hard for me to tell the difference here. And she says, in a sense, idiot, she hears voices at the wrong time. And that's the core, ultimately, of the objectivity that's needed in this disease.
Confusion in her eyes says it all. She's lost control. And she's clinging to the nearest passerby. She's lost control.
And she gave away the secrets of her past and said, I've lost control, yeah. And the voice that told her when and where to act, she said, I've lost control. Turned around and took me by the hand and said I've lost control again. And how I'll never notice why or understand, she said I've lost control again. And she screamed out, kicking on her side, and said I've lost control again. As she's up on the floor, I thought she died, she said I've lost control.
In Bible translations, in the New International Version, they translate it as those having seizures. In the NASB, it's worse. They say those who are epileptics. But the King James Version got it right. This, another Greek word, shows that it was known at the time as completely different. Check my pronunciation. These can't even spy on me because they're cartoon characters and I'm a real person. This Greek overdubbed French cartoon helped me though, because I don't know any Greek-speaking people in real. Σεληνιαζομένους. Selene in Greek means the moon.
The term lunacy comes from a Latin word for the moon. So this belief that unstable behavior is associated with the moon goes back many years.
All of that's a popular rumor. It's because what's happening to them looks mad. But it's only like someone's fainting, or if someone has vertigo, or if they sneeze.
Some myths deserve to be broken apart out of respect for the human intellect. That, no, when you're writhing on the ground and froth is coming out of your mouth, you're having an epileptic seizure. You have not been invaded by the devil. We got this one figured out.
It's not figured out that much. They both exist. The Bible talks about both of them. Very disappointing when Christians get demonization confused with what people think it is.
When he's talking about his work in prosthetics, he's not vile, he doesn't talk like that. Almost MPD, almost multiple personality disorder. It is, there's two different people. Two completely different people. I had hoped that the other person that I had heard talking about his work might show up. He didn't. Just going, show me, show me, show me. And I honestly, like I said, I was really tempted at that point to go, demon, identify yourself.
I have a device here that contains a substance and it says it's extended life in it. I gotta warn you, it also says harmful or fatal if swallowed. But Jesus has promised you, in his own words, his very own words, in his inerrant, infallible words, that these are the signs of those who have believed.
And this is a brilliant man, but totally taken over by something.
And in the case of a hallucination, which would be called an MPD, what's more stupid? Someone thinking that there's someone talking to them? Or someone else outside who thinks that there's someone else in there talking to you? And demons do exist. I've known people who were demonized.
Les mortels, les kuffars, ceux qui nous combattent, qui combattent l'islam.
Derrière sont accrochés
And I've talked about it once before. I was asleep at the time, but I was in the same region at the time that it was happening. And at one point, with the people who were demonized, their demon told me they were going to put me in a red suit and sacrifice me to Allah. At the time I didn't realize, and then I remembered, that's what they were doing in Syria. He managed to escape also, quite remarkably. And someone else was around there just at the time and was curious.
Show me one verse, one Islamic scholar that translated this verse as Allah prays. I beg you, just one.
Yeah, here's the
just
moment.
one.
Here's the moment. Listen
just
carefully.
one. Just one. Please, just.
You're a cancer to society. Okay, I am cancer to society. Can you please unpack for me the occasions I cursed Muhammad? And do you think that is wrong? T-shirt curse Muhammad. Where is Muhammad? Where is Muhammad?
I'm Muhammad. My name is Muhammad.
The moon exerts gravitational force.
I suppose the moon's gravitational force is recalling the state that they were in at the last time when they had the seizure.
We know, for instance, that the moon has an impact on tides. Now, the amount of force the Earth exerts on the average human being is around 950 newtons. The amount of force that the moon exerts on a human being is about 0.004 newton. 1 newton would be about 0.22 pounds. The amount of force required to accelerate a 1 kilogram mass 1 meter per second. So we could really say that the gravitational effect of the moon is negligible.
But if we're talking about displacement of something in the brain, that's probably not that much bigger than a unit of H2O, of what's constituting this intricate structure. If Jesus was healing these people, it would mean that they had a problem, so they could be affected by the moon somehow. Just like we talk about being sunstruck, has to do with the constitution of somebody's skin.
Après, je rigolais avec lui, je lui disais, bah oui monsieur, hein, vous savez, moi, la seule couleur que je peux devenir, c'est rouge tomate.
So the way the theory goes is that if the moon is exerting gravitational force on the oceans, then it's exerting gravitational force on people, because human beings are mostly water, about 80%.
No, that's not what it's all about. See, this is why you're not supposed to listen to these shrinks. This guy's not even involved in the scientific literature. All of this is a lot of stuff that I've sort of estimated and thought of myself. You shouldn't be running with this. It's not based on solid science. However, talking about the things that we do know, it is true that the moon moving around the Earth seems to be having an influence on people who have seizures. People are saying that it might have something to do with the hormones created by menses. The hormones exhibited by it might be influencing the seizures inside their brain. And I'm not even making this up, this is what people are doing at the moment. I'm making this video in May 2022, recommending the morning after pills that actually stop the menses for the women who are going through all this. However, the same thing is happening for men. What else follows that same cycle? The moon. Documented for seizures, weekly, monthly, often attributed to behavioural or catamenial effects. There is no clear evidence linking cyclic behavioural patterns to seizure susceptibility. 80% 24-hour, 21% weekly, 22% 3-week cycle. Richard Mead says, a cohort of studies found 60% common periods. Multi-day seizure cycles are consistently found at about weekly, 5 to 9 days, monthly between 28 and 32 day periods, occasionally monitored by a weekly or day of the month. J.R. Reynolds in 1861 says, in a majority of cases, there is an approximation to periodicity, day, month, week, and day of month. People with epilepsy may report having a bad week. Anecdotal evidence of long-term seizure cycles are abundant. A team led by Mark Cook brought the latest results in Latest Neurology. The weekday that most seizures occur was unique to every individual. Philippa Cardi is even developing an application to forecast when their seizures might occur.